You're watching Open Agenda. Here's our host, Joe White.
Welcome to Open Agenda. I'm your host, Joe White. So we have seen the press release about the landfill update that was put out by the county executive and also backed up with some information from Mike Dunn, who's the CEO of the Greater Salisbury Committee. We wanted to talk a little bit about the media coverage, some of our goals, and even some of the comments we've been receiving, particularly from the county executive. And in order to talk about that, I brought in Dr. Joe Venosa from Salisbury. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Jim Atkins from Ardella. Thank you for coming out.
Certainly.
So it was interesting on the June 30th press conference for the county executive. She talked about the poor media coverage about the landfill issues, the crisis as she stated it at the time.
We called this press conference for a variety of reasons. The first that I want to address is the irresponsible reporting that was done on this story last week. I saw a lot of things on Facebook. I saw a lot of things going out.
She even brought up that she was unhappy with the way the story was being covered. And now we get this press release that comes out on Monday, just this past week, about the landfill. Local Channel 47 did I would say an article. They wrote something about it. It sounded awful lot like the county executive's press release. And then we also saw a little bit about from the Greater Salisbury Committee that they think everything's going
Hunky-dory up there.
Going good now, right? And yet, at the same time, we've been accused of using a lack of facts. And really all we're using is the county executive statements and videos that have been posted by her in the administration, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the ironic thing here is that when we look at this issue, obviously, but, I think we could go beyond it. We have used at every step of the way either statements that are in county documents and forms or video evidence.
But Jim, I mean, you attend almost every county council meeting. You stay for the work sessions. You go to the public workshops, whether it's for budget proposals or the 10-year plan for the solid waste. That obviously a lot of that information wasn't correct back that was put out there by the executive and her administration. I mean, are you out to get anybody?
No, I mean we're just we repeat the information that we're given, and I guess besides just repeating it, we question it because it does not always seem to, from one council meeting to a next, or from one council meeting to a press release, the information seems to change. And why does it change? What happened in that period of time that all of a sudden what they told you before is not the same? And as you addressed with the press conference, and she wasn't happy with the press coverage over that, so she got another local news station to come in, basically read her press release for it. Well, but there is no investigation or no questions asked. It's just...
Well, that's my sort of main issue is that I understand that there's a really important role for media and the press historically, anywhere in the world, certainly in this country and community, to, inform the public. But if the mainstream local media is just regurgitating, literally, a talking point of any politician, what good is it?
I remember one thing that really upset us on the show back in the spring was when the county council put out a press release that was really just a lot of rhetoric in our mind. The local news organizations covered it, but we weren't satisfied with just the way that was put out there.
Sure.
So this isn't an attack on the county executive, although, as she says, she runs the county. She administers the county, her and her staff. I think that's going to lead to that. But then you talk about a lack of facts. Our the size of our group keeps coming into question, or the number of followers. I mean, I'm not even sure if that really matters.
It matters to somebody, apparently.
Yeah, somebody gets upset about it.
So our group is made up of conservatives, Republicans, liberals, Democrats, fiscal conservatives, libertarians. I know a lot of folks just see us on the front side of the camera. But a lot of folks, I mean, if you go to a play, there's as many people behind the curtain as there is in front.
There's a lot less handsome people behind us, yeah, for sure.
I don't know if we have any on the camera, Joe. That might be not factual.
I'm trying to help you out here, man.
I want to take a break. And when we come back, I want to give a very factual example of some of the contradictory material that we're getting, which is confusing and it's hard. We don't make any money doing the show. citizens, lay people as well, or all have families. We don't want to pay any more taxes than what we need to pay. But I want to talk about the August 20th, 2024 work session, which was the 5-year solid waste plan. Not because I want to rehash where the landfill is at now. What I want to talk about is how the information that we can get out of all of our elected officials is going to be disseminated going forward. All right?
Great.
So stay with us. When we come back, we're going to dive into some more facts, like them or not, and we're going to find out a little bit more what you can expect as the information's going to be rolled out to you over the next year. So stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Open Agenda. So still in the studio with me is Dr. Jovanosa. Mr. Jim Atkins, thank you for sticking around. I want to talk a little bit about the August 20th, 2024 work session. And at this presentation was the 5-year solid waste plan. Jim, you were there.
Yep.
You've been at the 10-year plan. You've been at all the council meetings and work sessions about this stuff. I want to reference the plan and actually had the presentation that they used. At this plan was Mike Swavey, who's Deputy Director of Public Works, Heather Langford, the Supervising Engineer, who at times has been the Deputy Director of Public Works, and been nominated to be the Director of Public Works from the County Executive. And also the engineer from EA, who's the current engineering firm that's being used for the landfill. So those folks were the ones giving the presentation. And at that presentation, specifically talking about Cell 8, which is the current cell we're using, having 3 to 4 years of service time left, plus Cell 7, which they state was in the process about to be designed.
Relation to capacity, as of June 2024, a capacity evaluation was done, which excludes a still potential new cell 7, which is a final remaining cell to be constructed. The capacity timeline as of June 2024 is estimated at 3.5 to 4 years on the high end. The capacity evaluation utilized the permitted final grading plan, and the solid waste operations, basically to get that 3.5 to 4 years, will require some modifications to the haul road for disposal. And then the final cell design, construction, and permitting capacity, as Mike mentioned, MES previously was involved, and they did a capacity evaluation of the landfill inclusive of Cell 7 in August 2023, which identified the remaining life roughly of 7 to 9 years, which now, as of August 2024, is about 6 to 8 years.
So we fast forward just 10 months later, and we're finding out that Cell 7 design wasn't started until early 2025, and we're running out of space in Cell 8 faster than the engineer, the county engineer, all presented.
So this is then the question that I would have as just a layman looking at the issue, who is trying to find out information about the landfill. If the executive is questioning our comments and critiques, okay, based on the facts, those are the facts that we know. That session was devised, or at least it was attended, and the people who testified and presented the information were her staff and her administration.
Yes.
So my question as just a layman is this: did she or her administration lie about those figures? Did they just downplay them now? What explains the complete gap?
Or are they blowing what's going on now out of proportion? That could be a thing.
That, or two, is this crisis that she now is trying to get in front of, is there an ulterior motive when we know what they presented last August?
It's hard, and one of the accusations she's made of us is that we're not using the facts. But we, like as you said, we're using the video and the facts as stated by her and her administration.
And the rates that they produced.
Yeah, which seemed much different than what we were finding out in June. Now, it is possible that these numbers were wrong, but in her statements to us on Facebook, it's actually talking about going back further than the 2.5 years she's been in office. In fact, she's quoted as saying, no one who actually is educated would think this is a 2-year problem. Look, the larger landfill issues aren't her fault. You know, she wasn't part of Bob Culver's administration when they were stealing diesel there. We're not blaming her for that. But Cell 8 and Cell 7 at times have been okay, and at times they haven't been. And that's only been in the last 2.5 years.
Well, I think that's the issue. Yeah, you can't hide behind the fact that landfills are big and complicated. Yeah, they are. Very good. You don't have to be an executive to figure that out. But this specific crisis of the spacing, the costs, and the construction, that is all on her.
Yeah.
That is her albatross.
Or at least the information wasn't disseminated for many, many months or even maybe several years, right?
Yeah, I mean, you've got engineer manager who was the acting director of public works for a period of time in John Pesota's administration. So she overlapped from Pesota into Giordano. So she was aware, should have been aware, because the original memo came out in 22 with the engineering plans for that site. So
In September of 22.
September of 22. So she's got knowledge from one administration to the other that she should have brought forward. You also have the person who was the administrative director for Culver and Pesota, who is now the consultant for the landfill. So why does that person not know?
Wayne Strauss.
We actually had brought back Wayne Strasberg, who was the former director of administration, brought him back on contract.
Wayne Strasberg and Heather Langford are the two consistent pieces in this little sort
They
of
go
drama.
from one administration to the other. So that where is the knowledge there? I mean, this is not a 2-year anybody with an education should know. But the people who were there prior did know.
Well, and look, the fact is, our efforts on the show have been to use the presentations and the footage as they were presented in real time. Then mistakes will happen, but own it to a large degree. I mean, that was one of the things we were saying about last week's work session. Once again, I understand the deputy director of public works could not be there, but our director of administration, Bunky Luffman, could have been there. Julie herself could have been there. I know they had plans in D.C., but sometimes you have to switch around. And
We all like to take field trips, but sometimes, like when you're actually required to present your case to the council on an issue that you yourself have been banging about and saying this is important.
And when you have your press conference on June the 30th, and you say the administration is going to meet with the council on July the 15th to work on this problem, knowing you're not going to be there,
Right.
not being there, and then saying that the problem is because the council and the administration do not communicate with each other.
When we don't communicate and collaborate, this is what happens. You get reactive legislation that has to be amended because it's in violation of our state law now, our state permit. She had planned to present this to you, that we could have a work session in the middle of July.
Well, in order to communicate with each other, you both have to be in the room. The council was in the room that day because I was there and saw the presentation. So one half of the formula was there. The other half chose not to be.
we've had so many special sessions in the last 2 years. FOP negotiations, budgets, moving budgets back further. When the tipping fees were going to be raised, they had another special legislative hearing. There's all kinds of other options, especially if you have knowledge of this crisis. There was only one of her staff that was there in the August of 2024 meeting that was also there in the July of 2025 meeting. And it was the newest person on that staff, the one that we feel like has got the most knowledge of this. Thankfully, they were there.
Yeah.
But they were new at the first meeting.
Wasn't Ms. Langford present in 24 at
She
that
was.
meeting?
She was
So
there, but she
was.
wasn't part of the presentation in 2025.
No, not in 2025, but she was in 24.
She
when
was, yeah.
Everything was hunky-dory and no problems. Everything's moving along fine.
But correct me if I'm wrong, it's my understanding that she was actually in the audience at this most recent work
Yeah, she
session.
was
Yes,
there.
yes,
She was
she
there.
was
She
there.
just wasn't part of the presentation. Now, talking about facts and Facebook posts and that sort of thing, I mean, obviously, one of our goals is to at least get the public to get their own information about this. And obviously, we're expressing our views, but we're using video to back up our views. The county executive has stated that she has 160,000 followers, and one of her rebuttals to us, we found that she has over 5,000 followers, which is more than we have. That for whatever that's worth.
Well, some people live offline too.
Well, yeah, and we're not in an elected position, and we're not trying to be famous by any stretch. But she doesn't have 160,000 followers. The gentleman she has a MOU with in the past for communications, he has 160,000 followers.
The big blogger guy.
It is.
Right.
Yeah. And when the press release came out on Monday that said, well, everything's okay, and we're going to talk about that press release a little bit more later, it went to that site first, and by clicking on that link, that's how those links are monetized. So any citizen out there who wanted to learn more, who clicked that link, that you didn't have to pay yourself, but that's how that page gets monetized.
So that to me is really troubling, right? Because if you're having our county executive leadership, our government of our county, right, that we are citizens and taxpayers for, and it's only disseminating information to a private blogger that can be monetized, that's really troubling.
Well, and then you also have...
And then bragging about it, too.
Well, and part of this press release group was the Greater Salisbury Committee. And again, that's a group you have to pay over $2,500 a year to be a member of. Not everybody's invited, and they don't have open meetings. I want to take a break, and when we come back, I want to play a little bit of the interview you and I had with John Cannon a couple weeks ago when we were talking about the budget process. And I want to talk a little bit about how the Greater Salisbury Committee's hand in this landfill thing, how this really does muddy the waters of transparency. So stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Open Agenda. I'm your host, Joe White. Still in the studio with me is Dr. Joe Venosa from Salisbury. Thank you for sticking around, Mr. Jim Atkins. So, Joe, a couple weeks ago, you and I, we interviewed President John Cannon from the County Council. We were talking at the time about a completely different subject, but we also got to ask him specifically about the budget and the fiscal year that just wrapped up, 2025, wrapped up in June. Well, when you go back and listen to the county executive's budget proposal from back in March, when she was starting to host her own public outreach,
Right.
some with the Board of Ed, some with just the general public, she mentioned breaking the revenue cap for
Right.
education, and then in a later show, on another show, she mentioned that it was more of a bait and switch.
Right.
What's your feelings on the fact that maybe, from her own words, she said, hey, look, I did a bait and switch from the county council. Are you less inclined to believe that going into the next fiscal year?
Well, to begin with, for the county executive to state publicly that she is very proud of it, and to gleefully admit that probably one of her greatest successes was pulling a bait and switch on the county council in reference to busting the revenue cap. I found that abhorrent. I could not believe that statement was even made. That wasn't a statement against the county council. That was a statement against the 107,000 citizens of Wycomico
Absolutely.
County.
Yep.
All the people that attended that meeting and were told, you have the 4-option plan.
Right.
I found that very unusual public hearing very one-sided, so much so that I made sure that I got up in front of the group before anybody spoke in the public to tell them, listen, folks, you don't have to bust the revenue cap and get property taxes to pay for your Board of Education.
Yeah.
You got $70,000 in your income tax receipts that can help cover the difference.
Right.
And I made that so that they wouldn't be misguided.
Yeah.
But the whole premise became that.
I think that's part of the general strategy, at least regarding this county executive, is that, and this is just my own view of it, and just to be blunt, I think there are forces around the executive who very much want to use her position to eventually get rid of the revenue cap.
But I still don't understand how you would publicly want to state that, I was very proud that I pulled a bait and switch, because I don't think the electorate, I don't think they want to see, the constituents don't want to see their governing body admittedly telling everyone that they believe in deception and trickery as a way to manage the government.
So the interview, he talks about the bait and switch that the county executive was really kind of gloating about, talking specifically back in March and April when she was saying we're going to have to bust a revenue cap, raise taxes, or at least not lower them as low as they were supposed to go on folks. That this was just a bait and switch to get at the council. Is there any reason to believe that maybe some of what's going on with the landfill could possibly be a bait and switch again?
It's highly plausible.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, Jim, we said it before, you've been at all these meetings. Is there just enough things that just don't make sense that you're just not sure about?
Well, it's not as much as they don't make sense. It's that they change every 2 weeks. You've got a different number. You've got a different amount of months that the landfill has availability to accept trash. You have the claim by the county about the tipping fees in this county being so low compared to all the other counties, and come to find out the variance is $2.
To justify raising rates, tipping fees at the disposal facility here, they completely misquoted nearby landfills and what they charge. It was said on record and on recording that Delaware charges $100 per ton. They've never charged $100 per ton. They charge $80 per ton. I have that with me. There's also a rebate program where you get $10+ back for every ton. I don't understand why people that we hire or elect at a public level are allowed to misconstrue data like that. And I've heard it today where things that I know not to be true were said today. So I'm just worried about that. And I don't have anything against anybody there either. I just want the best thing for the county. And when I hear arguments being misrepresented, like things being misrepresented to you guys, it's concerning to me as a user of the landfill and servicing tens of thousands of people in this county. So that's all I meant. I'm actually in support of the council. I'm worried you guys are being, to be dramatic, lied to.
Well, I want to run a scenario, Joe. Okay, let's just say, for instance, that there's obviously some out-of-county trash. I think it was brought up as 5 to 10% at the last work session. It was said that it's maybe up to 26% at times. But what if we eliminate the out-of-county trash, like the council's talking about doing in this emergency legislation? But Cell 8 actually does have more than just 12 months in it. It's always had more. Maybe it does. Are we looking just a year from now that the county executive can just sit back and say, well, look, I saved us?
I think, and again, we may never know, but that's why we ask questions, and that's why we do what we do. Everything that she has ever done has had a political motive. We have to acknowledge that. I think, this is the only time I'll say it, Julie Giordano is good at something, and that's being a politician. That doesn't mean it's good for regular people or our budget or the future and safety of the county or citizens, but she is really good at playing politics. And I believe that a lot of the landfill issue right now, even if she legitimately did, in fact, in my opinion, screw up the schedule and really has just been at fault for this problem, she's going to nevertheless use the crisis to reorient it as the election approaches. And I think that this is going to all happen around the time of the primary and then the election next year is very telling.
Well, we saw in the press release that came out this past Monday that the Greater Salisbury Committee, in particular the CEO, Mike Dunn, did a tour the week before and done a tour since I was there, and now saying everything's under control.
And to me, that's the tip-off.
Okay, now, just for folks out there who don't know, I mean, Mike Dunn used to serve on the county council as a Democrat.
Still is.
And Julie is registered as a Republican.
Yeah.
Now, look, we just touted earlier that we're of different political spectrum. But is this more transactional? I mean, why would a Democrat like Mike Dunn carry the water on the landfill issue for a Republican like Julie Giordano?
Well, I think they have mutual economic interests.
You're the first county executive who has talked about the elephant in the room. That, all by itself, deserves applause. Thank you for that. The elephant in the room, we have in our GSC 2030 plan, we address the revenue cap, and all we ask for is that a blue ribbon panel, just like the one that we've assembled to come and talk to you tonight, made up of community leaders, takes a look at that public policy that was implemented more than 20 years ago and simply ask the community, is this still appropriate public policy?
So maybe it is time to look at the revenue cap, and is it the best policy? Is it the best thing? And
good evening, Barry Beecham, county resident. And as far as I guess the elephant in the room here, everybody's talking about, we need funds, and the funds are lack thereof. I'd say the elephant in the room is the tax cap. And I'm just curious, how many people here would be willing to have their property taxes raised? To support these properties? To support any property, because because, and that's really what we need to really look at. And, you know, for me to say, hey, I'm in favor, you know, of a tax increase, no one wants to hear that. But what I really like to see, everyone in this room that I looked at raise their hand and they don't mind property tax cap, you know, being taken away.
Revenue cap.
Or revenue cap, I'm sorry. Yeah, so you know, basically, I would say that that's where we're going to have to look. As much as no one wants to talk about it, and I certainly don't want to be the guy to raise my hand and say it, but really, that's where we're at.
And again, I'm saying this, of course, as sort of a lifelong Democrat, but I think in a lot of ways Julie Giordano actually is a liberal in the sense of this. She certainly spends like it. Her budgets are sort of a Ted Kennedy-esque dream of spending. She has routinely expanded the size of the government in terms of positions that may not exist, but she wants to exist.
Yeah.
The growth of government intrusion into our activities and lives. And what's interesting is a lot of very left-wing liberal people who don't follow the specific politics hear her talk and say, oh yeah, she's a Democrat. Now again, if you talk to the social issues, maybe her views on race or sexuality or other things, that's where her MAGA-ness comes out. But I think in the economic issues, if you follow the money, there is no difference between a Jake Day, a Mike Dunn, or a Julie Giordano.
Well, and Jim, you asked me a question off camera earlier today about, you know, we've been covering also the city council and the SU politics with their budget and the lack of transparency there. You know, one of our goals with the show was really just to kind of open the door for other people to ask their own questions. When you're watching, you know, these, like you said, the numbers change.
Yeah.
Do you feel like there's any level of transparency here? Is there any way where you can kind of orient yourself and get back to, you know,
Real numbers?
Yeah, real numbers.
Yeah, no, I don't think so, because I think what has been shown in the past 2.5 years is that until there is a crisis, there's no need to tell the public.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we have seen with a lot of things until there is a crisis, because we'll go back to the bait and switch and the Board of Ed. When she had the budget hearing on that, she could defund departments in the county. She could break the revenue cap. She could raise taxes.
It was 4 options that were
Yes.
rolled out, and we didn't go with any of those 4
No,
options.
we didn't go with any of them. And it was like,
It was a true bait and switch.
it was. You went to a budget meeting to hear about the budget of Wycomico County and what was going to happen in the county.
Well, and I would, to circle back to our friends in the Greater Salisbury Committee, I do think the one thing, policy-wise, that they all align on is they all want to get rid of the revenue cap.
And they refer to this as the elephant in the room. I mean, we can go
Barry
back.
Beecham has said this.
Yeah.
Julie Giordano has said this. Mike Dunn has said this a few dozen times.
Yes.
Right. They have to come up with a better set of.
Well, it makes it
talking
easier for me to track when I'm trying to pull these videos. So
It's true.
I hope they continue to use that.
It's
that
true.
term.
But my belief is that if she is reelected and that there are 4 allies on that council, they will indeed try to get rid of it by other means.
So you legally, because of Norm Conway, used to be our state delegate, you can break the revenue cap for education. Now, we've seen our state government do this, where you just simply underfund education, fund all the other departments where you want, blow their budgets up in an upward fashion, and then use that loophole to backfill education with busting the revenue cap. Or you go to your delegation and say, hey, we want more loopholes, which could it be used for roads, could it be used for a whole host of things.
Sure.
And I think I think that's really going to be one of the areas that is a little scary as we're going in. You know, it is election season in essence, a year ahead.
Yeah.
I brought up at the last show, and Jim, you were at the meeting last week. They did move $2.5 million of unused funds. $500,000 of it was from paving roads in our county into a pension.
To a pension, yeah. And then said they will do this every year.
Well,
or could do it every year.
And will they not tell us there's a crisis with the pension until we're 12 months from it imploding, like the landfill?
Till it's there.
Yeah.
But their thoughts on the revenue cap really confuse me, because how can you convince the public that you want to break the revenue cap when at the end of every year, you have all this money for roads and landfills
Well,
and other things that you haven't spent.
I think the argument, not the argument, that's the wrong word, but I think the perspective or the issue is that to a lot of outside lay people, and I could say this sort of, as a relatively newer resident, is when you hear that we have a revenue cap, it conjures up the image of we intentionally keep our taxes low and therefore we don't invest in the things that we need to invest in. So to a lot of people that don't know anything about the minutia or the policy, what they hear is, oh, we're not investing in our schools, or we're not investing in roads because this darn revenue cap is limiting what we can do.
Which is only 30% of our budget.
Correct. But that's the thing. To the lay person who's not actually thrown their lives into it like we have.
But they're not spending the money that they're being given to do projects and ending up at the end of the year with that money. And that was one of the big things that the council looked at, and even on her budget presentation, it had property taxes and income taxes were the major contributors to the budget in this county, not the revenue.
Not the revenue,
Well, it's most of it's from income tax,
Right.
and we pay the highest amount of income tax allowed in state law. It's a little over 3%. Gentlemen, I know we've had a summer schedule for our shows, and we're supposed to be doing shows on sanitary district, which we think is important. Joe, you and I have one more show to do for SU and the students there. Again, we referenced it earlier. Their budget's being cut, but their tuition's not going down, and they're getting less services for the same or more money. We want to get off of this landfill issue, and we intend to do so. But we will continue to follow whatever information and presentations that were given us. And if we do find things that are inconsistent, we're going to at least ask the question. I'm not promising you we're going to be right. And folks out there are most certainly willing to disagree with us.
No,
Well, just a public service message to the people who are watching this. Effective August 1st, the landfill will be closed on Sundays.
Saturdays. Yeah.
So
like August 5th.
So the trash that's there that day that won't be collected, it'll magically go away, or
Well, it's going to sit somewhere overnight apparently before it gets picked up the next day and taken to work. But I mean, that was something that when we talked to Councilman Merritt last week, that the council just really wasn't sure because they weren't going to have another council meeting before August 1st and weren't really sure how the executive was going to go because she wasn't at the meeting to ask.
So here's where it goes.
Here the press release comes out yesterday, and lo and behold, it's going to be closed.
And it's things like this, right? This kind of policy that is unilateral, that is based on a lot of, I would say, bad ideas. When you see it in action, it ultimately comes across as inappropriate, unprofessional, and it really undermines a sense of safety and dignity of all the county residents and the taxpayers.
Well, the other point that's never been addressed that I've heard is the effect this will have on the employees of the landfill because the landfill will be closed.
Yeah.
The garbage collectors,
Yeah.
the disposal companies, because their employees that work on Saturday will not be out picking up trash in the county on Saturday. So
It's almost as if, and maybe we're wrong, but it seems like she is simultaneously, for a political act that doesn't actually have much benefit, is cutting the paychecks of many of her employees, as well as allowing businesses to suffer with trash heaps.
I think.
I mean,
one thing
who benefits from this?
You just kind of mentioned it. We may be wrong, but if we're wrong, it's only because we haven't been given that information.
We love to be wrong in it, but until we can operate with
9 days from now,
we'll see.
not available to ask.
Clock is ticking.
Well, thanks for joining us for this episode of Open Agenda. We'll be back next week with another new episode.
I'm trying to help you out here, man.